103.2 Preston FM.
Your community.
Your radio.
You're listening to 103.2 Preston FM, and I've got Ian Wright, the Chat City vet, in the studio. Hello, Ian.
Hello. Good afternoon.
You've
Good to be here.
Travelled a long way again, haven't you?
Oh gosh, maybe as much as 20 minutes. It was
Really?
an arduous journey,
So-
cutting through that traffic.
You were in Bamber Bridge today, then, I guess, were you?
No, Kirkham, straight down the, I don't know, what is it, A6?
It's a very hazardous
Blackpool
journey.
Old Road, it
Yeah.
was tough.
Yeah. Splendid. You're here now, though, so relax. And you're here to talk about a pest, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, although some of the listeners listening to you earlier will be relieved to hear that I am just going to talk about fleas, nothing more sort of odorous than that. But no, at the moment we're just being overrun by fleas. Been a terrible year for them. Been a really bad year over the last 2 or 3 years. They've gradually built up in numbers. We need a really hard winter. That's what we need really to kill them off. Well, because we haven't, a lot of them are overwintering, surviving in people's homes because of the central heating, and then when it gets warm, nice warm summer we've had this year, we've loved it, but so have the fleas, unfortunately.
So we've got to eradicate them.
Yes, we have. Yes, it's
It's-
us versus fleas. Yes, that's. I think we can all agree nobody likes having them in the house. So no, they need to be got rid of.
Right, it's a war on fleas, then.
It is us versus fleas.
There are different species of flea, aren't there, or is that a myth?
No, that is absolutely right. No, that's spot on. But the thing is that the flea we see probably 99% of the time now is the cat flea. The cat flea, I'm afraid, has just about outcompeted all the others on cats and dogs, certainly. But the reason they've done that is that they're just that little bit more adaptable. They can survive on cats, dogs, rabbits, ferrets, hedgehogs. So although these animals have all got their own individual species of flea, the cat flea can survive on all of them, and that's why it's done so well.
The cat flea is a greedy flea.
It is. It doesn't just live on cats, and that makes its control much more difficult, because if you've got almost any pet in the house, it can live on them.
Right, but not dogs?
Yeah, dogs, absolutely. Yeah, there is a dog flea, but the poor old dog flea was a bit slow off the mark, and it got outcompeted by the cat flea. So almost all fleas you'll find on dogs now are cat fleas. They're all, the way to think of them is one giant population. So if you have cats and dogs in your house, there'll be the same population of fleas living on the cats and the dogs. But what a lot of people don't appreciate is that most of the flea life stages, and you don't want to think about this, a bit like a nightmare horror movie, but most of the life stages are in the house. So all of the larvae, the eggs, the pupae that are nigh on impossible to kill, they're all in your house. And it's the pupae that hatch, and they have to feed then to reproduce on your cats, your dogs. They can bite us, but they can't live on us. But then, once they've fed, they can produce more eggs, more larvae, more pupae, and on it goes. So it can take a long time to get rid of a flea problem.
They can bite us, but they can't live on us. Does that mean
No,
that we're not nutritious for them, or they can't survive on our bodies?
They just can't survive on our bodies. There is a human flea, a flea called Pulex irritans, which, again, even that's a bit of a misnomer in that it's a flea that lives on wildlife, but it can breed on us. So, if it gets into your house, say from hedgehogs or foxes, then in theory it could live on us. But the good old commoner garden cat flea, it can have a bite. People get nasty reactions on their legs often from hatching pupae that are really hungry. They leap on the nearest thing that moves, but then they find we're not a very desirable host, so they'll hop off and they'll go and find a cat or a dog to live on instead.
You mentioned that most of the life stages of the flea take place inside the house, and you mentioned the egg and the larva and the pupae.
That's right.
Tell me what those terms mean, because I thought the egg was the same as the larva.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, well, what happens is that the fleas are on the cat and the dog, we'll say, for example, for these purposes, and that they feed and then they lay eggs, and those eggs drop off into your house. So then those eggs are in your house. They hatch into larvae. It's the larvae that pop out the egg, and they're very small, about 1 millimetre long, and they feed. This isn't a very nice thought, but they feed off flea poo and just general sort of crud in your carpets and sort of on your floors. But the flea poo is quite nutrition to them. It's just sort of digested blood. And they feed on that, and then after a little bit of time, they spin a cocoon and they pupate, just like a caterpillar or a moth larvae. And it's when those pupae hatch, that's when your adult flea comes out, hungry, ready to feed on something.
All right, so they feed on flea poo, and I guess that's what we would normally call flea dirt.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So I guess if we're going to get rid of fleas, one of the things you need to do is vacuum regularly.
Well, it's a two-pronged strategy. Actually, the most important thing, so what we have at the moment is we have lots of people coming in and they're saying, well, we've used a flea treatment and we're still seeing fleas. So is it not working? Are these fleas resistant? Have we got a resistance problem? But the fact of the matter is that you've got all these life stages that you have to kill or have to die out naturally. So it's a two-pronged attack. I mean, the most important thing, if you do nothing else, you need to use a product on all the pets that are susceptible in your house that's 100% effective or close to. So it kills all the fleas that are feeding, and then they can't breed. So that breaks the life cycle. So it means they can't replenish their numbers. It's a bit like them not getting reinforcements, if you like. And then you can speed up the process then by also getting rid of the stages in the house. And you can do that by washing, vacuuming, using insecticide. You can get cans of flea spray that you can use in the house to reduce numbers. I mean, some people are driven to fumigate to get the counselling because numbers are so high, and that's all helpful. That all speeds up the time you're going to get rid of an infestation in, but you have to stop them breeding on the pets, otherwise they're just going to keep replenishing their numbers again and again and again. But what people don't appreciate, and I think this is partially our fault as vets, that perhaps we don't explain this often enough, is that it takes time. I mean, even if you're doing all these things correctly, you can't kill the pupae. The pupae could burn your house down, the pupae would still be there. So they have to hatch and feed and then die if you've used an insecticide. And I mean, it takes at least 2-3 months to get rid of an infestation completely.
You're saying the pupae are very hardy. What about a blowtorch?
I don't know if that's been tried. I like your determination. I like your attitude. But I mean, generally, you have to, unless you're going to irradiate your house, you have to let them hatch.
So you're saying the first stage in this is to get rid of the adult fleas by applying a product to your dog or cat or whatever you've got?
Absolutely. And to treat them all together. People think, the most common, lots of mistakes that people innocently make, but people think, well, I'll spread the cost of the treatment. So I'll treat my dogs this week and then I'll treat my cats next week. You have to treat them all together, otherwise they'll carry on breeding. So you need to get your calendar out, synchronise your treatments like a military campaign, and then however long your product lasts, and for most spot-ons it's a month, you go back, you treat them all a month later, and in that way you stop them breeding.
So when you've killed all the adults, is it possible to get rid of there won't be any more eggs?
You won't get any new eggs, that's the key. That's the key. No new eggs, yeah.
So the eggs will be in your carpet.
Yeah.
Do they go around the edges mainly?
Most of the eggs are concentrated where your pets go. So typically they'll be in dog beds, dare I say, for some people in the sofas, maybe even in your own bed. This might make you think about whether you want your pets to sleep with you or not. But, wherever they go, wherever they concentrate, that's where the flea egg numbers will concentrate. And the larvae, once they hatch, will travel a little way, and they can be carried around on clothing. But you'll have these centres of population in your house, and certainly that's where you want to concentrate your efforts of vacuuming and flea spraying, because you're just reducing those numbers that are going to form pupae down the line.
Is a spray essential? Can you get rid of them by just vacuuming?
Not just by vacuuming, no. I mean, the way to think of it is the essential bit is treating the pets. You are not going to win if you don't treat your pets correctly, but then anything after that you do will help. So vacuuming will help a little bit, using insecticides. I appreciate some people are reluctant to use insecticides, and certainly if you have fish, ornamental lizards, very young children, you've got to be a bit careful, but certainly insecticides will speed up the process, but any debulking of that big environmental population will help.
What about home treatments like, I don't know, baking soda?
Yeah, is this on the pet or in the home? Sorry, you want to be very careful what you're putting on your pet.
Well, I think we're talking about in the home.
Yeah, in the home. Well, the thing is that they are pretty hardy. That's the thing, and that there have been people. I know people have this real reluctance in using insecticides. I understand that. So there have been environmentally friendly cans like Scoosh is one example, which cocoons the pupae to stop them hatching. It's a silicone spray, but in my experience, you have to wage war pretty heavily to have any significant effect on the numbers. So vacuuming is something that practically does take a lot out, but using products that aren't hard insecticides essentially are probably of limited value, if I'm honest.
Okay. Now fleas are very annoying, aren't they? When they bite you, then it creates a sort of raised red area. Sometimes it's a bit itchy, but can they also spread bacterial disease, viral disease?
Absolutely, lots and lots and lots of diseases that they spread, like most insects, to be honest, but either mechanically or through biting. With fleas, it is mostly through biting, so I'll give you some examples. There are some species-specific examples. So, of course, back in the day, plague was transmitted by rat fleas and was devastating. I mean, plague is still out there in developing countries, but because of our hygiene and the fact that we've got more on top of our rat populations, hopefully that won't happen again. But myxomatosis in rabbits is spread by fleas. Cat scratch disease that we can catch, Bartonellosis, that's spread by fleas on cats. Cats have their own type of Bartonella, something called Hemobartonella, that causes anemia, very nasty disease in cats. So there are all sorts of things that can be spread by fleas.
Excellent. Well, we want to prevent that, don't we?
Yes. It's not very excellent, though. We want to get on top of it, yeah.
All right. Now, dogs and cats. Most people have dogs and a dog or a cat. Some people have both. Can they use the same product on the dog and on the cat?
Now that is a very good question. And it depends on the product, is the short answer. So there are some products that are absolutely safe. So to give you some examples, Frontline, which is as old as the hills, but if used correctly, is still effective. That can be used on cats and dogs, but not on rabbits. There's imidacloprid, which Advantage is one trade name for that. That can be used on rabbits, on cats, and on dogs. There's Stronghold and Advocate that are flea products that are prescription that can be used on both. What you have to be very, very careful of is that some products are designed to treat ticks as well, and they contain pyrethroids. And also some of the shop-bought flea products contain pyrethroids, and they aren't really safe for cats. At some doses, they simply aren't safe for cats. There are other products you just have to be very, very careful when giving them to cats. So if a product contains a pyrethroid, which almost always end in frin, so permethrin, deltamethrin, then you just have to be very, very careful and read the label very carefully. I mean, there is for ticks, there is a prescription collar now for cats which contains a pyrethroid, which is safe. But, if you're in doubt, you just read those instructions very carefully. And if you're still not sure, just give your vet a ring.
Are ticks a problem in this area?
Ticks, well, it depends where you are. Lake District is a huge concentration of them, but you'd be amazed, particularly in Preston, you'd be amazed how close we are to huge stocks of deer. We feel like we're in, the urban jungle here, but you only have to go a few miles outside and you're in farmland with sheep, deer, cows, all reservoirs for ticks, and also the humble, cuddly hedgehog that we all love to try and save, and we should all do our bit for. They carry ticks and they bring them into our gardens. So you need to have ticks at the back of your mind as well, metaphorically.
Metaphorically, indeed, yeah. What will we talk about next time you come, Ian?
Well, as always, I'm happy to take listener questions if they'd like to email them in or tweet them. Failing that, of course, next time I come in, fireworks season will be coming round. If anyone has any firework phobia concerns, lots and lots of products that can be used to help that, but also behavioural modifications and advice are very important for that. So if anybody has any firework related questions, perhaps we can talk about that.
Okay, brilliant. Now, you were listening to Chat City as you drove in the car.
Yep,
20 minutes from
right.
Kirkham.
20 minutes, 20 minutes.
And what did you think of the music that was being played on Chat City this morning?
Oh, Brian, it's been lovely, but I couldn't necessarily have put a name to all of the songs and artists performing. Does that mean I'm younger or older than I think I am? I'm not sure.
I really can't imagine. Have you heard of hot chocolate?
Yes, I have. Yes, let's have some hot chocolate.
All right, this is Hot Chocolate and Emily. Thanks very much, Ian.
Thanks.
You're listening to the Chat City interviews on 103.2 Preston FM.